This is a Dragon 32, one of Wales's first ever microcomputers, and I am super excited to have it here because it's Welsh. I'm Welsh, I'm excited, you're excited, I know you're excited, and you should be excited as well as we take this old 8-bit machine and get it ready for the 21st century. My name is Jesby, this is my tech department, and be warned, it's going to get very Welsh very quickly back, alright? Come on boyo, let's get it going, is it? Los geht's. Now, it won't have escaped your attention that we are sponsored by PCBWay, but what makes PCBWay so special? Well, let's take a look. For example, the replacement ROM PCB for this Atari 800 XL, well, I got it made by PCBWay. But PCBWay do, well, way more than PCBs. For example, when it comes time to remake this panel for a project that's coming up later this year, well, I'll be looking at PCBWay to do the milling. In fact, if you've got a project on the go, chances are PCBWay can help you out. From 3D printing to CNCing to full fabrication. PCBWay, way more than just PCBs. For more information, check out the link in the description below. The Dragon 32 and I go back a long way. We both grew up in Wales in the 1980s, just 20 miles apart. Although in fairness, I wasn't assembled on Swansea Industrial Estate. Though I have been there. And you're not missing much, honestly. I wouldn't get my hands onto a Dragon 32 until the late 80s, when my dad picked one up, fully boxed, at a car boot sale for, well, next to nothing. Which is a shame, because the Dragon is actually not a bad machine. Compared to the ZX Spectrum, well, look, it's got a full-size keyboard with plastic keys. It's not great, but it's not dead flesh either. Along the side, you'll find a port for a parallel input-output device, 2 joystick ports left and right, a tape deck port, a reset switch, and a TV modulator, meaning you can plug it into the big TV. Along the back, there's a monitor for more professional users, as well as an on-off switch and our power supply, which is that horrible D9 plug. That's going to cause problems, but that's for later. Finally, along the other side of the machine, we have the ubiquitous cartridge port that seemed to come with almost every micro in the 1980s. Now, it has to be pointed out that the TRS-80 from Tandy in the US looks remarkably similar to this machine. That's because, well, it is. It's not a direct copy of the TRS-80. That would be silly. What actually happened is Motorola designed the CPU for this and then put out a design document that said, well, we're not going to build a PC, but if we were, this was how we'd do it. And both Tandy and Dragon, well, built it from the spec. So it's just as Motorola intended. Our main problem right now, though, is that we don't have a working power supply. You see, the 28-volt AC power supply that would have shipped with this machine is, well, let's call it as rare as hen's teeth. You can't get them, and even if you did, it probably isn't working. So let's replace it with a brand new power supply from Dragon Electronics in the UK. Getting into the Dragon is simple. Just undo the 4 screws underneath and the top lifts off. Inside you'll find a machine that's incredibly easy to work on. Our power supply is connected to the main computer by a daughter board at the back. It also contains the TV modulator and RGB output for our monitor. We're going to lose both of those in our swap over. Whilst we're here, we may as well look at the main board itself. And yeah, it's really kind of nice. You'll see a little board above the 2 ROM chips here. That is the mezzanine board, and that contains 16K of our RAM, or something like that anyway. Either way, it's an extra bit of RAM. Now, this I found particularly interesting. I have 2 variable resistors that seem to be, well, covered in white dust. A little IPA will probably clear them up, but I have no idea why they've gone like that. Very strange. But let's start with that power supply, and let's unplug it first from the main board. And boy, is this connector stiff and sharp. It kind of bites at you if you're not careful. I wonder why they did that. Either way, once that's disconnected, we have 4 screws to take out, and then the power supply will simply lift out, and we're ready to install our new one. Well, once we've built it, that is. Our replacement Dragon power supply comes from Dragon Plus Electronics in the UK. Now, finding parts for the Dragon 32 is very difficult, let alone modern replacement parts. So I was super happy to discover Dragon Plus Electronics here having a replacement PSU. Now, I bought it in kit form, but if you don't want to go through the hassle of building it, well, you can certainly buy it ready-made. And I would highly recommend it if you have a Dragon 32, because these power supplies are excellent. Of course, I do need to build it, and apart from 2 surface mount parts on the board, which weren't that difficult to solder, the rest of it is fairly simple. So you know what I think we need now? I think we need a montage. Let's go. With the power supply built, it's time to turn my attention to the rest of the machine, and it just needs, well, a bit of a clean. There's nothing majorly wrong in here as far as I can tell, just a lot of dust. First, let's get the keyboard out and get that dismantled, and I'll do that off camera because you guys have seen me dismantle the keyboard plenty of times, no doubt. Either way, it's held in by 2 screws and a single plug. Once you remove it, the keyboard, well, it'll just lift away. What we are left with, as per usual, is just a lot of dust. But fortunately, a little wet wipe and some cleaning spray should get this nice and tidy. Now then, to get the main board out, well, again, it's simplicity itself. It's little more than a few screws, and the whole thing will just lift away. With the board out of the machine, I turn my attention to our wonderfully furry variable resistors. Yeah, this is really interesting, but fortunately, a cotton swab and some IPA get them looking normal. I have no idea why they seem to have accrued dust and whatever the hell that is, but they're the only components on the board that have done that. Thank goodness they clean off easily. Ugh. With the power supply built and the machine cleaned out, it's time to fit our new power supply. Now, only 2 of the 4 screws will go back in, as this power supply board, as you can see, is a little shorter. Nonetheless, it's held in place perfectly. All I need to do now is connect up the boards to each other using a brand new connector supplied with the kit. I gotta be honest, I'm a little excited about this because I do not know whether this machine works or not at this point. Clipping the things in, well, they're stiff, but then there's a lot of power going through here, and I kind of appreciate the good quality feel this kit has brought. Alright then people, it's time to test this machine. The power supply, I can see it's got 12 volts at the back there. To test it, I'm using this little colour TV monitor that I found. Someone was throwing this away. It's a little 10-inch colour TV stroke monitor. It runs off mains or 12 volt, so it's great for camping. You know, if you want to take away your little ZX Spectrum and play on the go, 1980 style. However, for now, let's test this out. So I have no idea if this is going to work because I didn't know it would work anyway. Power on. Well, look at that. It works. It works. yes, it actually works, sort of. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this should be color. It's not, it's black and white. Now, given that this, oh wait, there it goes. And there it goes off. Okay, so something weird is happening there. I may need to adjust something. But in general, that's the Dragon 32. It's green. Like so green, I've forgotten how green it was. But yeah, look, 1982 Dragon Data Limited Basic Interpreter Microsoft. And the weird thing is when it's in black and white, it's got a better picture. Actually, you know what? Let's try this with a bigger TV just in case. Okay, it's random TV number 2. I found this for €10. I mean, you can't argue with some of these things. People throw these things away. And there we go. Look, it's perfect. Dragon Data Limited 16K Basic Interpreter 1982 Microsoft. Awesome. The computer just works. The new power supply works perfectly. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's get the keyboard cleaned up and get this back on. Now, to load up our games in our Dragon, it's not like the old days where you could find a box of old games lying around and just get them for a cheap price. So instead, I've got hold of this. This is a Dragon 32 SD card solution based on the Maxduino. And I got this from We Make Robots in the UK. It's a fantastic bit of kit. I really love it because it's more than just your basic Maxduino. There are some very good added extras in here as well. Now, to power it, we just need to add in a little socket there and plug in our audio jack to our cassette port. The other jack on this cable is for the recording. I don't have a remote jack on this one, but that's fine. I don't need it, although it's interesting that this machine would work with it. As you can see, we have our Maxduino, so I just need to get to the right thing. Let's open that. There we go. And let's find some games. While we're looking for games, well, let me tell you a little bit about this. I do like these wonderful 3D printed case in appropriate beige, I think. It's not quite the same beige as the Dragon 32, but that's because the Dragon 32 is, well, she's been knocking around a bit. I think a bit of light retro brighting will do wonders there, don't you? Now, as you know, when we did the BBC, I'm a big fan of Chucky Egg, and I'm hoping Chucky Egg is on here somewhere. Ah, there we go. Oh, Chucky Egg Plus. Okay, so all I got to do there, that's done. Now I just type in cload M on the computer, hit enter. It's now ready, and away we go. And that is all we need to do to load in games to our Dragon 32. It's an absolutely great bit of kit. And I'll put a link in the description below so you can buy your own. Now we've got the OK. Some games auto start, this one does not, so EXEC, execute, enter. And excellent. I love Chucky Egg, and whilst it is green, very green, seems to be a quirk with the Dragon 32 that I remember from a long time ago. And this is an upgrade version of the game. So, come on. Number of players, 1. 4 players, that's not bad. And what makes it actually really easy compared to the BBC is I can just use the cursor keys in space. Oh yeah, that's so much better. So you have to be really on top of those eggs to pick them up. Oop, that was close. Well, the Dragon 32 is back in full working order, and I couldn't be happier, is what I would normally say at the end of a video. Unfortunately, this is not one of those videos. At the moment, you can see the Dragon is working, but unfortunately, there is a small fault with it that will need fixing. Now, I will try and demonstrate, but the fault, well, the fault is dependent on heat, I think, because it certainly seems after the machine's been on a while, it doesn't come back. So at the moment, you can see we have the main boot up screen, but if it's cold, I can turn the power off and I'll switch it back on. Now, one more time. well, there you go, it's fine, it's working. But what tends to happen is that when the machine is cold, you get no start whatsoever. Now, in trying to fault find this, I am immensely grateful to two Discord users on the RMC Discord. You should check out the RMC Discord, a great place to hang out if you love your retro machines, and because they have some of the best experts around. Chrissy and especially Julian, you have been an immense help, and Julian, I know you're watching because you love these machines as much as I do. Yeah, they pointed me in the direction of a few things, and it turns out that what I thought was the problem, it was on the 5-volt line. Actually, it turns out to be a problem with the SAM chip. Now, the SAM chip is the Dragon 32's memory controller, essentially. And its job when the power comes on is to send a RAS1 signal through to the upper memory. In doing so, it kicks the whole machine off into starting, and we get to this screen. Well, when this is cold, it doesn't send enough voltage. It's sending the signal, but rather than sending the 2.8 to 3 volts that it's sending out now to power a machine, it sends out 1.9 volts to 2 volts, which isn't enough to start it. Now, it took a lot of tracing back, I will be honest, but I found it. I will need to replace that IC because it is slowly failing. Otherwise, the machine works fine, as you've seen up until now. I will order the part and fit it, and I'm going to assume it's going to fix the issue. However, if it doesn't, well, there'll be another video on the Dragon 32. And honestly, this board is kind of fragile, and I'm not looking forward to taking that giant 40-pin IC out, but it'll need doing. All that's left to say, though, is that whilst it does have its little problems, this machine is now actually fit and ready for the 21st century, as I mentioned before. The new power supply means the machine runs a heck of a lot cooler than the old one. I mean, hang on, I'll show you the power supply board. I mean, just looking at this transistor here and the massive heatsink it's on, I mean, that tells you how hot this machine would run. We have lost the TV modulator, but that's fine. We have our composite out, and we can fit an RGB board at a later date if we want to, and I might do that. For now, though, I kind of dig the composite look. It's a very crisp picture compared to RF, and yeah, I'm very happy about that. The big win for me has been the Dragon 32 SD card solution, finished in this, lovely beige color that doesn't quite match our Dragon, but that's the Dragon, not this. Yeah, I bought this from We Make Robots, and I absolutely love it. It's a great thing. I'll put a link in the description below. It's all based on the Maxduino project, but this has a few extra tweaks and extras that really make this a worthwhile thing. I'm also very hopeful this will work with my MSX machines as well. We'll see. But I love that. That's been a real great find, and it makes loading cassette games, well, it kind of feels like the old days, so that if you want to run it and load it up just as slowly as it used to, that's great. All that's left to say now, though, is thank you so much for watching. I enjoyed making this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Please, if you did, give it a thumbs up, or if you want to, subscribe. But it's up to you. I'm not pressuring you either way. And all that's left to say now is, well, when it comes to old computers like the Dragon 32, remember to reuse, rediscover, and you never know, you might find a little bit of the old country to remind you of where you used to come from and bring a little smile to your face. My name is Jess B. This has been my tech department, and ta very much for dropping by, so diolch yn fawr, and cheers.